trans issues are often in the news, and never more so now that more and more women, TERFs as I believe we're called, stands for Trans Exclusionary Radical Feminists. Didn't think I was any of those things other than the F word, but apparently we all are, if we are, like J.K. Rowling, rather insistent on people using correct terms like men and women. But as more and more women have been standing firm on women's rights and women's safe spaces, and indeed just the word woman and who owns that and defines that word, there have been more and more threats from trans activists. Not the vast majority of trans people, but those trans activists who, let's face it, just really don't like women very much. Well, one of the people who's been leading this fight has been an absolute hero of mine, Kellie-Jay. She's a women's rights campaigner who, last time I interviewed you, Kellie-Jay, didn't even describe yourself as a feminist, but I think you would right now, would you not?
Well, still not, I'm afraid.
Really?
I stick with women's rights campaigner.
All right, okay, absolutely fair enough. Again, rather different definitions of these things. Now, you're in the news as Sussex police have been alerted to a number of threats that have been sent about you. You've been organising these wonderful Let Women Speak events, sometimes in front of statues of suffragettes and the like, where we've seen some incredible intimidation by large men dressed all in black, balaclavaed, physically intimidating women. Police, by the way, really not doing their job stepping in. But you're facing threats of, I think, quite clear threats of violence from trans activist campaigners who have said that they call on people to fight you, basically, by any means necessary. What do you make of these threats, and how seriously do you take them?
Well, I do take them quite seriously, because I think the whole movement, certainly the people that come out to protest women speaking, are deep misogynists, and there are quite a fringe element of them who I think are very persuadable when it comes to committing acts of violence. So I do think these people are basically being told women speaking about our rights is an act of violence against them, and so they feel that they can reply with violence.
Well, indeed. I mean, some of these threats, fight feminist campaigner Kellie-Jay, by any means you see fit. This is a clear threat of violence. Some of the intimidation we've seen, frankly, would not be acceptable if it was happening the other way round towards trans people. The police would instantly intervene. Some of those videos that I've watched, I've thought, there's no way that I would have stood firm on that. But I'm 5'11", rather taller than you. But I think there would definitely have needed to be a police intervention at some point to protect one of us, that's for sure. But this is going on and on. Why do you think the police are so unwilling to get involved when it is women being intimidated by, let's use the correct word, men?
Well, it's really interesting, isn't it? Because I can't think of another group in society who would be less protected by the police than women at these events. I think the police have been convinced also that we are the aggressors. And so we are treated the same as an actual far-right rally. Yeah. In fact, probably not as well. So it is extraordinary when you watch the police and they're sort of, I'm 5'1", and there might be a man sort of 6 foot something, huge, great big bloke, not even pretending to be anything other than a bloke. And he will just be screaming in my face all sorts of quite offensive things. And the police just stand there thinking, well, he has a right to speak. And women don't have a right to speak, and they won't stop. In Bristol, for example, they wouldn't stop just endless noise trying to drown us out. But I have been talking to Sussex police. I am quite encouraged by the sort of noises they're making. They don't want to make mistakes. They do want to allow women to speak. I guess we shall just see on the 18th of September if they can. That's
when it's happening. But what's interesting, of course, you seem to promote this ire from these trans activists when you do things which I would consider, and most people would consider, completely benign. That billboard poster, I remember it very vividly, from 2018, from the Labour Party conference back in Liverpool. You paid £700 for a poster to go up simply with the definition of a woman, as you got behind you, an adult human female. I regularly wear the T-shirts and the hoodies saying this as well. Nothing more fun than wearing those on Hampstead Heath and everyone looking at you like you're a terrible human being for using a dictionary definition of what you yourself are. It's amazing, isn't it, that if you're trans, it's all about your definition of yourself. But women aren't allowed to use the definition that is actually the biological reality of what we are.
I mean, I'm like you, Julia. I don't like moaning about being a woman. I really do love being a woman.
Yeah.
But there's something about this movement, the transgender sort of activist movement in particular, if not transgenderism in itself, it's just deeply misogynist. And I just feel I didn't know the world was quite as sexist until I met this particular opposition to being able to say what a woman actually is when you are one.
Well, absolutely. Well, I have to say, I mean, I think you've been a magnificent campaigner on this. I think braver than many, many other people. And it's lovely to talk to you again. It's been a very long time. You keep up the battle, and I'm quite happy to come and be on your side in any of those protests, in those debates, and stand up to those balaclava wearing men. Kellie-Jay Keane, their women's rights campaigner.